being started. So, respected speaker of this program, respected head of the department, Sir Professor Anand Mishra, respected faculty members from our department and other universities, dear students and research scholars. Good evening to all of you. I am Kalpana Yadav, Assistant Professor in the Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hill University. The topic of today's program is Defense and Understanding of Yogācāra Buddhism, which is being delivered by Professor H.S. Prasad. As you know that Deep Prajwalan and garlanding both are the tradition of our university, so I request the dignitaries to please garland the portrait of Malviji and light the traditional lamp as well. Now it's time for Mangala Charan. So I request Vikas to recite the Mangala Charan.
Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahmavidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Yo Brahmadam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedancha Prahidoti Tasmai Brahmadevatma Buddhi Prakasham Mokshurvai Saranamaham Prapadye Yo Vedadau Swaraha Prokto Vedante Cha Pratishtitaha Tasya Prakritilīnasya Yah Parasya Maheswaraha Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnāt Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnavādāya Purnamevāvashishyate Satyavratam Satyaparam Trisatyam Satyasya Yonim Nihitam Cha Satye Satyasya Satyavrata Satyanetram Satyatmakam Tvam Sharanam Prapannaha Agnenaya Supatharāye Asman Vishmani Deva Vajnani Vidvan Yudhosmajjurānamenu Bhunishtham Tem Navo Iti Vidhem Jayati Vibudhavandya Bharati Bharatiya Jayati Vibudhavandyo Janakisho Vadeshaha Jayati Jayati Vishwakashika Vishwanatho Jayati Jayati Hindu Vishwavidyalayoyam Yada Vishwavismayakaram Charitam Mahiyaha Vachaspate Raviram Sutaram Gaviyaha Pratah Sada Sumanasam Abhivandyanīyaha Vandyasya Me Madana Mohan Madhaviyaha Vandyasya Me Madana Mohan Madhaviyaha Om Shanta Shanta Shanti Harihi Om.
Thank you, Vikas. Now, I would like to invite. Okay. Thank you, Vikas. Now, I would like to invite Kajol and Shreya for the rendition of Kulki.
Rajadhani
राजधानी राजधानी यहाँ की है ये पवित्र शिक्षा कि सत्य कहे वेदांत रक्षा बीते हरिश्चंद्र थे यहीं पर ये सत्य शिक्षा राजधानी राजधानी वेद ईश्वर की सत्यवाणी बने जिन्हें पढ़ के ब्रह्म ज्ञानी कि व्यास जी ने रचे यहीं पर ये ब्रह्म विद्या राजधानी राजधानी वो मुक्ति पद को दिलाने वाले सुधर्म पथ पर चलाने वाले यहीं फले फूले बुद्ध शंकर ये राज ऋषि राजधानी राजधानी सुरम्य धारा मधुरासी नहाई जिसमें कबीर तुलसी भला हो कविता का क्यों ना कर ये भाग बेटा राजधानी राजधानी विविध कला अर्थ शास्त्र गायन गणित खनिज औषधि रसायन प्रतीचि प्राचीन का मेल सुंदर ये विश्वविद्या राजधानी राजधानी ये मालवीय जी की देशभक्ति ये उनका साहस ये उनकी शक्ति ये मालवीय जी की देशभक्ति ये उनका साहस ये उनकी शक्ति प्रकट हुई है नवीन होकर ये कर्मवीर राजधानी राजधानी मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्ववेद्या राजधानी राजधानी मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्ववेद्या Thank you, Kajal and Shreya. After this beautiful rendition of Kuldeep, I request Sir Professor S.P. Pandey to kindly felicitate our speaker with garland, shawl and memento. Thank you, sir. Now I request head of the department to welcome our speaker and guest.
ये पांडे जी शाश्वत बात और छेद बात के बीच के
Hare Om. Honorable Speaker, Professor H.S. Prasad ji.
Good afternoon, sir.
Our head of Department of Philosophy and PhD. Convener, Dr. Kalpana Yadav ji. Teachers, students, scholars, present offline or online. I, on behalf of the Department of Philosophy and Religion, BHU, extend warm welcome to all of you in this ICPR study circle lecture on Yogācāra Buddhism. Friends, this is really a great occasion for us that Professor H.S. Prasad ji, who is a renowned scholar of Maya and Buddhism, is here with us, and he would deliver his talk on defense and reading of Yogācāra. All of you know that this department has a long tradition of Buddhist studies. Radhakrishnan, Professor T.R. Murthy, Professor A.K. Chatterjee, then a number of contemporary scholars like Professor A.K. Rai, Professor Abhimanyu Singh, Professor H.S. Prasad. These were associated with that Buddhist tradition of the Department of Philosophy and Religion. Today, Professor Prasad is going to present a rereading of Yogācāra Buddhism. Let us see how he formulates his position. I welcome you, sir, in this department. I also extend warm welcome to Hartmut Buss, who has come from Copenhagen, Denmark. And this is just a coincidence that Professor Prasad is going to deliver his lecture on Vasubandhu's Yogācāra idealism of Vigyaptimanta Siddhi, and Hartmut is a scholar of Srimati, who has commented on Trinsika of Vasubandhu. Hartmut is a renowned scholar of Sanskrit and Tibetan Buddhism as well as general Buddhist philosophy. I welcome you, sir, to this department. I also extend warm welcome to Professor Lalji, and Dr. Lal Bahadur, from DU, who has been student of Professor H.S. Prasad and is a scholar of Buddhism, though he is associated with history department. I welcome all my colleagues, Professor S.P. Pandey, Professor Rajesh Jha, Professor Udesh Chaudhary, Professor S.C. Dubey, Dr. Rahul Maurya, Dr. P.K. Barre, our other colleagues present online, our students and scholars. I welcome you all in this lecture. I hope you will enjoy the lecture of Professor H.S. Prasad. Thank you.
After this welcome address, I would like to present a brief introduction of the speaker. So, Professor Harishankar Prasad has now retired from the Department of Philosophy, University of Delhi, 2018. After serving it for 35 years, he has studied at Banaras Hindu University, where he completed BA and MA courses from 1971 to 1975. Thereafter, he was registered for PhD in January 1976 and worked till the end of 1978, but did not complete it because he was awarded Australian National University PhD scholarship to work under the supervision of Professor J.W. Dijon on the theme The Buddhist Concept of Time. He joined the University of Delhi August 1983 as a faculty member in the Department of Philosophy. With the passage of time, he headed the department, served as Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Chairman of Research Board of Humanities, Member of Executive Council, and Chairman of 3 undergraduate colleges. He has published 6 edited books and 1 independent, The Centrality of Ethics in Buddhism, which has been appreciated internationally. Besides, he has published more than 40 research articles in national and international journals. A number of books have been written by him, such as Selling Against the Current, The Buddha, Buddhism and Methodology, Philosophy of Time in Buddhism, The Indian Theories of Consciousness, and The Buddhist Theories of Being. Now the time has come. I would like to call upon the speaker for his talk. Please come, sir.
I'm very happy to be here. And the whole credit goes to my friend Professor Anand Mishra, who proposed to present an article or lecture on Yogācāra Buddhism. For 52 years, I have been studying Buddhism and so many other schools of thought also. But still I can't say that I understand any discipline completely or perfectly. There is no scope for perfection for me, maybe for others also. So thank you very much, Professor Anand Mishra ji, that you encouraged me, you invited me, and this is my institution. Despite having deep interest in Buddhism, I still feel that my soul, my self is in BHU or in Banaras, but in Delhi I have only my physical body. You see, मेरी आत्मा तो यही है. So, for any speaker, the most difficult thing is how to start, where to start. Despite being 73 years old person, still has the same. So my starting is to begin with the beginning. But where is the beginning? Since Yogācāra comes much later, maybe openly in the 4th century, around 4th century, 4th or 5th century, and the Buddha was in the 6th century BC. So you can understand the gap. But how come that the Buddha is still on the top and he is the source of all sorts of ideas, all sorts of theories, all sorts of cultural issues, religious, etc., philosophical and what not. And the Buddha is still acceptable source. And if you find that there are different schools in more than 2500 years, but still there are so many things still left as they have not been covered by scholars throughout the world, you can say that. So, not to talk of my understanding, etc. I do admit that I am a very imperfect student, and that imperfect is compelling me to learn and learn, or to clarify or to present my own position. There is no thinker who is all alone or the perfect. I am not talking of the God. I am not sure that, rather I am sure that there is no God. If there is, He is there, He may not be complete or perfect. For there is, maybe that divinity is inside us also already. And Indians think that every human being or creatures, you can say, that the two aspects are there. The one is that humanity and divinity go together in our existence according to the Indian civilizational culture or Sanatan Dharma or Vaishik Drishti, you can say that. Many times all alone, I have no teacher. They used to be, but when I used to be taught, I did not understand nothing. I performed in the examination. I got first class marks, that's a different thing. And I was selected by Professor J.W. Dizon, who used to take only one student every alternate day. Somehow I was. He did not teach me even a single sentence, even then, not even once. And he told me that you have come here to write a dissertation, not to study the materials. You are so stopped. And within 1 week of my presence there, I left one dot below S. And then he immediately immediately means in 2 days' time, he wrote there, you are still committing horrible mistake. That dot created a very, you can say, problems for me. And what he did, that through the grammatical, you can say, Sanskrit grammar, he quoted so many sutras and said that if you don't put S below S, this means that it has this meaning. So this was the pressure on me. And then I mean, this kind of thing, I did not run away, I did not withdraw. But I said that every day I have 24 hours. Today also, when I am going to speak something which is imperfect, please don't expect perfection, which nobody has. In hierarchy, there are great scholars, I know many years. And I have visited 30 countries in the world, and I have learned, and I have found that still there is no teacher today for me, but the books are there. So I am grateful to all those materials which I have studied. And somehow in my writing like this, there came a time towards the end of my PhD, I requested Prasad, please give me 3 months time extension. And he very bluntly said that why should you get any extension, because other students are in the queue, only one fellowship and throughout the world. I was selected, I am still there when I did not deserve the kind of foundations or requirement one requires, lots of languages, many languages, etc. But he said, it's not that I take the pride, because this kind of, you can say, comments that you are still committing the gross mistake. And then after, you can say around 3 years time when I was completing. So before that, because one has to submit the thesis and there are 4 months time to submit, and then I submitted. But before that, he said that your first draft is final draft. That your first draft is final draft. Because 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, and all sorts of things I had so careful, and but he accepted, he said that your first draft is. But he had not gone through all versions, for example. Now I am all alone, except the books, and still we have, and I have to see where to start. The starting is that if I understand the Buddha, what was in the mind of the Buddha? He had only 2 aspects of his, you can say, in a sense of that he was compelled, because he was very sensitive, he was a prince, and then he was so sensitive at the age of 29 by that time, and he had seen the world, experienced the world. And then he moved to Magadh, and then he tried to learn from the teachers of yoga. Now, what is that? Anyway, you know the entire history that the Siddhartha moved is converted into the Buddha. And the Buddha is not the proper name. All of you know. This is the title, you can say that. And here is the Siddhartha. And then you see that in between, the whole journey, spiritual journey of this one was so hard, and ultimately he was not satisfied by his teachers, Allah Kalam and Buddha Karama Buddha, and then the Buddha separated, the 2 parties separated themselves, and then the Buddha had his own formula. The question was that, the problem was that the existential predicament or the dukkha is the supreme fact, and that fact is in my existence, and that existence is you can say painful or unsatisfactory or incomplete, badly incomplete. All of us are there. You have, the nature has constituted us biological or whatever you can say that, psychological, biological, physical or whatever you have. But that is very problematic. But who constituted? I don't know who constituted this incomplete or problematic situation. And you are there. You have all the pattern. You see your pattern. So the nature has its own way of creating pattern in all this, in this pluralistic world. So for a long time, and there are the Prakriti issues. Now these ones, then what I found that Buddha's, that period, actually 6 years period, he had found that there is only one evolution in this cosmos, only one or in the nature. And that is the evolution that it has in the multiplicity has been created. And this multiplicity, each one had, each thing origin had a pattern. Our own birth, that in the womb of my mother, it was so my existence was suppose a very, you can say very small, and that it was so potential that I was, produced in a very systematic way. It's not my mother or father who has created the pattern. They had the relation actually. This was just like any animal. But my production is like this one. It is many cases, but my production is all these things, that this kind of shaping you can say, that is given to me. It's a given to me. I cannot do anything. So this evolution, in this evolution, lots of defect. I am a defect actually. You are, all of you are defect actually, defective, because you are not complete. Now this evolution, Buddha realized, according to my understanding, that this evolution, which was created by the Prakriti, and this Prakriti, whatever the Prakriti is there, that is just spoiled by the humans actually. So human, it's not the evolution of the human being. It's the actually devolution. The human beings had, I the human devolution. The Prakriti's evolution, and that is further spoiled by the human devolution. And then this was the challenge for the Buddha. And then the Buddha had the task of creating another evolution to transform the human personality, mind actually, and so many paths he created. And that evolution is actually for the entire human beings or the global, this kind of contribution is there. That is there. So this is, so my understanding is that the Prakriti evolution, if I have to choose a title, then it will be Prakriti evolution, human devolution, and the Buddha's evolution. That is still on top. I don't find that there are so many coming schools of thought. And you know that the Sutta literature was completed many centuries later. After his death, you can say, they were. And then, in that process, that if Estaviras are there, the Sutta literature, etc., or you know that the Pali tradition, you can say, and then the Pali, you know that there are 7 texts, etc. The Pali Sutta literature, in one way it has been organized, and the later on the Vidharmic literature was the scholasticism, a kind of thing, how to rationally organize the Latin. Then Sanskrit one. And the Sanskrit one, if you find that Yogācāra started in the 4th, roughly speaking, I have exacted that Asanga started. But Asanga comes to the end actually, so far the originality is concerned. So now you have to keep in mind that Hinayana and Mahayana, you can say. This word is used. Okay? And the terminology, you can say Hinayana, and there was even said within the Savidas or other, you can say Theravadins, there was a clash from the very beginning itself, you can say, and by the Mahasangikas, you can say that. And that, you can say, that came to an end only when a Mahayana group is created, rooted in the Prajnaparmita, the Sutras. And then you will find that so many, if there are, suppose that 18 schools are there, or at least 4 or 5 very well established. So let me start that in this one with the Vasubandhu, for example, early Buddhism, and then earlier Vasubandhu, and then the later one. Earlier means the Vidharmic part. Before that, Pali Abhidhamma was there. That is okay. I am telling you all these things simply because that I can understand every time I try to understand the basic one. I go back and then I take the jump. So when you have to take a jump, you have to go behind. And then you jump. So this kind of jump, but this kind of complexity, you can say that when the Bhashikas are there, and then Sarvastivada is there, all the Sotantik is there, and all these, that Abhidharma Kosh or Bhashya and so many other things you can say he might have written. And then he shifts to Asanga's team, you can say. Both were friends. What kind of brothers were brothers were there? That's a different thing. I'm not going into that. I am reading this one. Then where do we start? What happens? Because it's very important to know about your own identity, who you are. Even in the Vedas, there is a question there, Ko Aham. First you identify yourself, try to understand yourself. Try to understand this. Your constitution. If you have the 5 external sensory organs, you have the mind, and then all sorts of interactions, all sorts of things are there, and they create big problems. But how to understand all this? And all these things are questions after all of the, you can say, coming schools of thought, you can say. So all sorts of problems are there. Now I am reading this one, since we have so many hours for you, or for me also. I want to go very slowly. I don't want to in a very free style, but there are certain things. And then I shall, in a sense, I try to survey the entire Buddhism. That how is the development, whether it's a development is progressive or not, or destructive, or it's a destructive. Whether the Mahayanis have destroyed the Buddha, and there are scholars like it can say Mahayana, how Mahayana destroyed the early Buddhism, or how Sarvastivadi, Vaibhashikas, they also reinterpreted, but with mistakes, misinterpretation, you can say. Lots of things are there. If I have this kind of survey, it's very for me that nobody can ever come to the supreme head that acceptable to everybody and this and that. So these are. So I am reading this one. Only 14 pages are there. It is not a big one, but the issues are very full of. And I have for 8 or 9 months I have been working on this one, but still I find that I am not clear enough. So just to share with you, and I want from you that nobody should accept it that he or she is perfect or understood very clearly for all time to come. It's not there. It's not there. It's a big mistake and stupidity. Let us begin with the beginning. Where is the beginning in our case? In my understanding, my understanding is that we must look at our biological physical constitution made of billions of cells as minutest dynamic ever changing parts. I mean, you can say the parts. If 1 billion cells are, I mean, I'm not a scientist. Suppose my constitution is made of 1 billion cells. They are the given ones actually. But then these are the basic parts, the foundational parts are there. Now what I want to say, which gives rise to systematic full personality with multiple organs as a whole. But this one, then there is also such kind of wholes like the chariot. And you know this example. Where is the table? Where is Prasad? Where is the Prasad? If I am a chess Prasad, what does it mean? Then the table. But table, there is nothing table isolated from all these parts. These parts are somehow they are aggregated and they are creating, and what is creating is just a part of the phenomena. Where is the table? So if I cover these ones, for example, I can't say that I see the table. I can't see. If I put one paper like this one, so if my ditti or drishti, you remove your drishti, which is problematic, which is very conceptual, very imaginary. So if I remove this one, I can see the table. But both sides are empty. That this is empty ontologically or metaphysically. And this is empty because it has no expression, no conception, etc. This is not. But such things very, you see, childish thing I started understanding. But such a different kinds of wholes. All of us are now wholes. But this whole is what is, I mean, later on I shall talk to you that this whole, everything is whole. You can say, but what does it mean? What does it mean whole? But if I study that there is a cosmic whole, where is the cosmic whole? But that cosmic is not what I'm going for that one, but my cosmic wholeness, you see, some kind of life. So this was then how come that is an aggregate of the cells, and then there is the whole which is phenomenal, and then you can say that now I become the holistic, or you can say that the cosmic, I become the cosmic whole. What does it mean? What is it? All sorts of, what I want to take you to, that Bodhisattva ethics, you can say. The end is important. Lots of things ultimately. But without going through all sorts of paths, very critical, lots of transformation, and all these things are there. So I had a very difficult time what to do actually. So this one the cosmic whole, all of which are non-stop and integrated functional self-organizing structures. It is actually a function. Dynamic reality, I mean when Buddha has come to know Pratitya Samutpad, Paticca Samupad, and that is the only one which is the truth. And on the basis of that, he knows the truth. The reality is there, the truth is there. Because what you experience, that is the truth for you. And that one, how is this doctrine gives rise to Four Noble Truths, etc., etc. So all these things I have tried to accommodate in sequence. All these spatio-temporal causal structures are actually given to us. Causality I have not created, you have not created. A spatio-temporal concept or understanding, some kind of conceptual misunderstanding, the phenomenal part you consider. You see, lambai, chodai, etc., all sorts of things. So given to us by the supreme dynamic systematic engineer. But who is the engineer? Who is that? Automatic is happening. All these specific temporal causal structures, etc. So engineer, who is the nature, Prakriti, which is made up of four great elements, and that is Mahabhut, great elements, fire, air, water, and earth, oxygen. These are the four ultimate elements, and these are the elements constitute this plurality. You can't live without water, without fire, without air, and without the earth element. So your constitution can be reduced to, if you analyze neurologically, then you will find that these elements. So my identity is this one actually. This is the basic one. I am reduced to four elements, and these four elements are necessary for my existence, whether it is dukh or dukh nivritti. The Buddha's problem was that how to create antidote against the human devolution, and how come. So ultimately you have to come to that. So you have to understand, reflecting on yourself. So all these, they have constituted our own existence, which cannot survive even if one of them is missing. This marks the existence or non-existence of our identities. Thus, the Prakriti has its own scientific power and ways of structuring endless multiple designs of all varieties of things, sentient or non-sentient. This is. Now, if I have in my mind, and then you will find that all these phenomena are there, lots of things are there. But where do we start? The starting was with the mind. The starting was with the chitta. The starting was with the antahkarana. Because the antahkarana is here. And such a antahkarana, you can say that a faculty which is five sensory organs are external. Because I have eyes, ears, nose, etc. all these things. And then I am taking data are getting attacked on me from outside. If I say that I see the table and I, between that there is a gap, but the tree does not enter into my eyes. It's not eyes. So this is so the one question answer is that he has that the dukh is there, but who will dukh nivritti? Who will eliminate this one? because there is no external force. So every human being is suffering because of all that, because this existential predicament is there, dukh is there, and I can't do. And nobody will come to help you. You are responsible for that, and you are the only one who will, through his or her own effort, will solve or eliminate all sorts of things are there. So that element is also there. Your own karma for you. So dukh and dukh nivritti. This is throughout there is. Every system, every school of thought in this one had this one, either this way or this way. But all of them have come out through, you can say, a perspective. Even Nagarjuna comes out of that. He ends with ethic, you can say emptiness, but he does not explain what is left, what remains in emptiness. What remains in Shuddhita, etc. So all these issues are there and they are creating problems for me. But I love it. And since somehow I took etc. So this one evolution, etc. And 6 years, as I told you, Siddhartha is the problem. So what happened that very crucial time, because he was Buddha was all alone. Then deserted his teachers. And then when he was successful, to what path? That is one side. But at the same time, he wanted to share that my Bodhi, only my teachers, erstwhile teacher can understand. And his 5 erstwhile friends also, they had deserted. Because he wanted to solve. That problem is here, solution is here. I want solution only here. So this is only in this empirical world. I want this solution in this one. So that way, so he came to know that they had died a few weeks or 2 weeks or 1 week, 3 weeks, Jogi. But then he remembered that let me go and meet my erstwhile friends. But they had shifted to Sarnath area. And then he reached there and he was, as a matter of fact, that they did not want to welcome him. But ultimately, and then he shared this. And that was in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. You know that. That was the first discourse. And this discourse had the 4 formulas, discovery. 4 noble truths, etc. You keep with us. You know that. So this one, this is. Please remember this one, because Yogācāra takes advantage from there. I tell you that the Buddha is still the source for Yogācāra, but this source has been interpreted in a very different way. What it was a supreme, you can say, supreme reality, dynamic reality, all these things, and with lots of conditions, causal conditions, just like the river is flowing with actually molecules or even the smaller elements, you can say that. But this is flowing. So different, you can say that this is a different, every moment, every second, there is a new design, there was a new. So you can take, if you take the slides just without any thickness, then you can say that you see that this kind of presentation is there. This is the reality. So this gives an idea also very useful for learning. And all of the scholars will say know that. So Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, all this. So he established or he demanded Attaka, self-effort. And Buddha very frankly told all the you can say that those who are very desirous of following this one, Attaka is self-effort. Buddha frankly told all these disciples that I am Margadata. I can guide you. the path. So I am simply Margadata, the guide. But I am not Mokshadata, very bluntly. I am teaching. But the assertive does not mean that if I am teaching in the class, I am not going to write on your exemption. You see the script, you can't write. I am not writing your, you see, in the examination, I am not going to write for you. You see, this is the. Now, this kind of, you see, and then is a. Is it okay? Yes. Okay. Now you see, the Buddha, there are two discourses, you can say that, very important, or at least one, that he started with his Dhammacakkavartan Sutta, and then the following, or based on that, lots of doctrines are there, which you know. I am not elaborating. I know that many students, they have not studied, many teachers also, they have not studied. And all these, you can say, listeners are already on the on. You see, this one, there comes a time when he declares himself as Patisodagami, sailing against the current. Sailing against the current means that if you are sailing your boat in the boat along the stream, then it's very easy. But if you go against that current, suppose somebody it's just like that somebody had the heart attack and the Buddha wants to go to the hospital. But the path is not clear. Both sides of the roads are occupied by different procession, for example. This is actually going against the current. This Patisod word, sailing against the current, is actually discussed when he was requested to describe the entire spiritual journey. And that is written, and that changed my understanding. It helped me a lot more than 20 years back, and that is Arya Pariyasan Sutta. Describing. And suggested that what happened, he had it in mind that I have to, every human being, at least a human being has been this fact, brutal fact. You can't tell, you can't change the entire pattern, etc. And in that one he knew. But what happened, that he found that nobody is there to help him. When he realized that nobody is there to help him, then he was sitting near a pond, you can say. And that pond was full of lotus flowers, you see. So he was sitting and he was very unhappy that what to do. How can I teach the general people, and I want that the whole world should be free from pains. For example, they say. And then he was sitting. Suddenly he saw, it was a very common example, that he saw that here is the lotus flower, but the lotus flower is in the top of that. And its beginning is the muddy roots. So the roots are there. Very dirty, you can say, the muddy, you can say that. But all these roots are growing, but they are not reaching the level of the lotus flower. And in that case, then suddenly there was a vision in it that I cannot, just like that lotus flowers cannot, you can say, every root cannot you produce or give rise to the flower. And then he said that it's not possible it is not possible that every human being should be like the lotus. This one. And then he said that in that one there is a hierarchy in the human hierarchy. Perhaps he was against the you can say caste system, which is actually the social one. It's a very different kind of misuse actually, this kind of hierarchy. And then he said that this one, that is simply a human being had the potentiality, that muddy potentiality. Suppose Buddhatva is there, Buddhahood is there. And they said that, okay, all of us have the same kind of Buddhahood, but how do you flourish? How do you go further? This is something like this. So this one, and let me come to be I shall make it little faster now. See, this is the background. That background, and I realized that at different level, different interpretations which were not acceptable, but are not acceptable for the coming ones, and at the same time, even the coming ones are challenged now. So this is, you see that, but what to do? What should I do? So this one, if you read that Abhidharma Kosh Bhashya, Abhidharma Kosh Karika and Bhashya in the Vasubandhu's case. There are 9 chapters, and 9 chapters has, you see, categorized in that sequence, etc., or somewhere, and it includes everything and very clear understanding of the complex issues, you can say that. Karma is also there in that one, and the same. And you know that before in that one, the 3 lakhan, that anityata, anatmata, and dukkha. The dukkha is there, but then in this one, this formula or this doctrine, you have anityata and anatmata. Dynamic and momentariness, you can say that in interpretation. And anatmata means that there is no metaphysical soul-like things. You can say self. That is the thing. So everywhere that is acceptable for all the Buddhists, you can say, of the Buddhists, so far as Anatmata is concerned. So I'm not discussing, but I want to bring to your notice this one. Now what happened when in the Asamiras, Pali, and then the Mahasangika, they wanted to make lots of very radical changes. Because the Buddha had not written, and Buddha's, you can say that the compilation of his discourses was done much later, maybe 400 or 500 years later, around the beginning of the Christian era, for example. Now that part is misused by other Buddhists. This is misuse, because this is it. And then it has been translated on many other writings, in the Mahayana, you can say, or before the Prajnaparamita literature, and the Prajnaparamita has a very different kind of thing. And then you can say that before that in the Pali, and then in the Mahayana, the Sanskrit. Within the Sanskrit, at least there are 2 Mahayana system, that is one is Nagarjuna's Madhyama. Just in the beginning of the Christian era, 1st or 2nd century, you can say that. And before that, maybe 1 or 102 years before Prajnaparamita literature. So that has started, and they had, so this Mahasangika, and so there are certain points which I have taken or I have explained through Bodhi Victory, you can say. So I had a reading, but in my own way. Buddha as a supreme ideal, Bodhisattva ideal, and the Arhat ideal, Bhikshu, all these 3 are acceptable. And then he said, was that early Buddhism, you see, because Arhat was the problem for the Mahayanas, this one. And Arhat was not you can say that now the perfect one or complete one. So they had, so Asthavir versus Mahasanghi or Arhat versus Bodhisattva, and then ultimately they wanted to promote or help the layman. So the layman, please remember this one, if I have understood, because many scholars they use this one. So number one, early Buddhism and a few centuries later, Mahayana Buddhism, which had their roots in the former means early Buddhism. Number two, wrong attitudes between the two, Nikaya purism and Mahayana elitism. You see this kind of phrase, this kind of act, which Bodhi say very bluntly, that they are elitists, but they are claiming to have the well-wisher of laymen. So wrong attitude. Because of wrong attitude, there was no need. What I understand that he wanted that there is no need actually of Mahayana. That is what I understand. Maybe that I know, but I think that quite acceptable for me. So wrong attitude between the two. Hindyan purism. Because the Hindyan is pure. Purity is there. And so far as Mahayana is concerned, they are very brilliant people, but they are elitist, you say, elitism. You see the difference between it. Although they claim the cosmic, but there are interpretations in different ways, their own approaches also I see that. The third one is that the Buddha offers the followers a choice between. He has to say, this is the Arhat idea. This is the Buddha, somehow perhaps interest. That the Buddha said, this is the Arhat idea. Arhat is also the idea. It is not just unacceptable idea, which has such and such features. Choose whichever one you like. So if this is stated, they say whether it is Buddhism or Arhat or whatever ideals are there, because they are complete. So you choose anyone. It's just a question of, you can say the names, you can say, or some titles, you can say that. So he said, if that is the same thing is accepted by the Mahayanis. And the Mahayanis are not referring to this one. There are lots of things are there. There is also a third model of a Buddhist spiritual life, that of the Pratyek Buddha, Pratyek Buddha individual. Pratyek Buddha, the Pratyek Buddha is similar in many respects to the disciplined Arhat, except that where the disciple Arhat and attains enlightenment under the guidance of the Buddha, the Pratyek Buddha gains enlightenment without any outside guidance and do not attempt to bring enlightenment to others. But he was very selfish, necessarily. Otherwise, the combination of qualities that constitute this type of essentiality. You see, I could have started straight away in the Yogācāra, but I never I understood. Because you see all these elements are there in some of the other way, silently or exclusively. This one. So this one. The next one I am skipping. The expression for the three yanas and the three kinds of bodhi are not used in the commentaries, etc. So I am not reading this one. The last one is that early Buddhism and Buddhatva just developed in the sense of cosmic Buddha Mahayana. So it was not a rootless. Bodhisattva theory or concept was not, is a rootless actually. Now all of us, broadly speaking, there are two, now I am coming, now closer and closer. So if I get a few lines and then I come in all those issues which are found traced by me, although there are many more issues are there. And those issues are very important. But you see, you will be surprised to that this list is there. When these lists are, these charges are there, it has a criminal है उसको charges लगाते हैं, there are so many charges against the criminal, so many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 and 100. It's enough. Something like that. Then these issues are so disturbing. So number one, the Shravakya, that is Hinyan, you can say, what I understood, which covers the Pali Sthaviras, Theravada, Sarvastivadis, the Sautrantic discourse discussed by the early Vasubandhu, the author of Abhidharma Kosh and its Maharshya, which are rooted in the Buddha Sutta literature. That is one position. The second one is that the Mahayana tradition rooted in the Prajnaparamita literature, although it radically reinterprets the early Buddhism, but the reinterpretation means that radical evolutionary change. This means that, and this has been very clearly written by Professor T.R.B. He is no more, but Professor T.R.B. Murthy. And he was right. His writing is right. Maybe lots of things are there. Very impressive or classical work is there, but there are many contemporary scholars have started developing. You are one of that contemporary scholar. Can I call you the contemporary Buddhist scholar? Yes, this is something. So, this one. In today's lecture, I shall mainly focus on Yogācāra Vijñānapāda, which is deeply, widely, and positively. Unlike Nagarjuna. Positively. Negative. And there is an idea also it is there. And that's why there is a question. What remains in Shunyata? You end with the Shunyata. You end up with Prapancha Shunyata. But what is left? But that which is left is not discussed because it will be Prapancha. And so many others. Now you have to understand, just feel and end. So that's why they end one. And he takes both negative and positive. So in today's lecture, I shall mainly focus on the Yogācāra. This one is no idea etc. And positively influence. Only Buddhism and Nagarjuna's Madhyama in the light of only Buddhism and Nagarjuna's Madhyama in the light of Prasad Chatterjee's famous book, The Yogācāra Idealism, which has created sometimes for me lots of his style is very brilliant, no problem. But my understanding, I have found that in many cases in the beginning, throughout, I find that there is the jump or taken for granted that the reader will understand. His language is very brilliant, no problem. But I am finding this one. But that is cool, that takes itself there, and then maybe that in future I shall try to maybe that I can elaborate. If I and you can say in a position. So various interpretations are there in those days. Shortage of the literature. Now main issues I am coming to that one. The heart of the issue. So that will bring to your notice, and I request you that kindly keep in your mind. Number one, the Buddha had sorry, I have a problem, but it happens sometimes in the way there is that. Main issues, terminology, methodology, and the doctrine. Sometimes all these things are there. Very common classification, you can say, together. Number one, the Buddha is a supreme enlightened teacher. He is skillful and pragmatic discourses at different levels. So the Buddha Buddha had not only one doctrine. But the thing is that when he used to interact with the disciples or anyone who desires to learn, then in that one, that is a different level. Different levels are there. And that is what happens in our life also in some understanding. So he had developed the skill. So skill is there. I am a speaker and there are hearers, my students suppose. If I am in the class, then I have to be very, very careful, because if I am working in the area of Buddhism for 52 years, but my student, I am not going to, see all sorts of things which my students cannot catch or understand. So this is a very different kind of approach. What is the problem? The communication. That one day I was thinking, let's suppose I am saying Yogācāra. That's all. But the Yogācāra is silent. What is it? But if you ask me to speak, then I will speak. So it's something like that. One concept is there, and then when you speak, then it becomes like, you can say that like this one. That one point, when you express, then it is diversified. So it is one to many actually. But the hearer is receiving many and then integrating that way to one. So one to many and then many to one. And that is the difficulty. So unless that one is that, there is one to one understanding, then unless it is there, then communication is not there. But how to do that? They are writing, but I am not understanding. And this is my problem, like this, what are the learner? So the number one, Buddha's are four principles, those 10 doctrines, okay. The third one is no speculative metaphysics in Buddhism. Many writers write frankly that Buddhism is rooted in metaphysics. And that is very problematic to us. You can talk of epistemology. But this is there any place or where metaphysics is used for this? Metaphysics may be that it is taken that there is some reality. Where is the reality? If it is momentary, something like this, it's just some Veda, self-awareness, that's all for me. It's not the metaphysical reality that one. Even the Praticca Samutpad is not the metaphysical. So this is a problem which I have not worked out, but this is this one. The therapy. The fourth one is the most important one. The therapy of the wavering mind. Mind. This is the only one notorious, you can say, either you call it criminal, unwavering, or anything. But who will do that? Where is the mind? Mind is not sitting to create or running the factory, for example. But mind is something. And this one, this is that only. But it is a self-correction. And this is self-correction. And the third one is the mind may be silent or is something like this one. So therapy of the wavering mind. But how to do that? The fifth one is necessary to study the Sutta. And early Vasubandhus of Dharma Pushpacha, as I told you. And there is a very important Abhidharma study. There are 18 dhatus. 18 dhatus means that, but those who know, that 18 dhatus have 5 external senses, 1 internal. Internal faculty, you can say. 5 external. 5 are external, which are impacted respectively from the external coming. It's eyes, nose, or ear, or taste, or all sorts of things. And then the mind internal. So all these data, if they are coming, all these coming, and since momentaneous is there, fluxional causality with causality, all these things, multiplicity, all sorts of things. Then the mind is receiving, and spatio-temporally it is structuring. Because the mind, without understanding, without structuring, spatio-temporally and intentionality, to reach there. So whatever is a structure it has created the mind, it's a covers, you can say. Samarup, I think Samarup Shabda, it's something like that. So mind, that's a problem which will come later on after this one. And you know that Asanga tradition, Sahopalamba Niyam. Sahopalamba Dharmakirti is this one, which has been very loved by Professor A.K. Chatterjee. But there are lots of things to re-study this one, which I am doing, but I'm not going deeper in this one, but I am going. Where it is a self-awareness, some Vedan, or you can say some Viti. That self-awareness is a illumination. It illuminates itself, self-reflection, and it illuminates other. But that I have not cleared this one, because it will be a very different writing. So that I have already, I have. The next one is, and this Sahopalamba is not in Pramana. Not Pramana, Pramana Riti kya naam hai? Dharmakirti says, Pramana Virti hai na? Pramana Bharti. Actually, it is in the Pramana Vinishchay. Actually, this is in nature. Only a few years back, I came to know that it is in the. So that is the original is now available. The material also with me here, but I am not going to bring it in detail. The various theories of idea. Now, various theories of idea. Prasad Chatterjee has titled that Yogācāra idealism. Yogācāra idealism, what kind of idealism? What kind of idealism they are developing? If it is idealism, how can it be metaphysical or ontological, etc., 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 like this one? And then the terminology. So these two texts, Professor Murthy and Professor Chatterjee, they have tried to cover lots of things, the Western. I am not actually in a position to say that they are. So in between the terminology is being used following Sherbat Singh. My understanding is still incomplete, so I am stopping here actually. This is this one. It's a supposes subjectivity. Subjectivity is something that it refers to individuals' very understanding, but it has a very sophisticated sensibility. It's not individual, but this individual, what it is. So this in list one and this. So various theories of idealism, individual subjectivity, and the concept of true human. That if Buddha is subjective, that subject he became that individual subjective means that whatever you are, you can develop yourself to the true human. True human means selfless. Selfless means that from egoism to altruism. This is actually subjectivity, into subjectivity. So it's not that I am subjectivity and I am actually in the very starting. So I try to understand that you are converted into, transformed into, you can say, the Buddha, a Bodhisattva, for example. So, but it's not like that it's not there. But I am bringing to your notice that these are the issues which are very important. Next one is various theories of idealism, individual subjectivity, but cosmically universal. So what I said that all these things are, you can say they can be handled. Next one is no denial of the external world in ultimate sense. Denial is not there. There is a context. There is a context if you take, for example, the external world is not denial. But there is a purpose, because the purpose is that the transformation of the mind, restructuring by itself, which is in me. And there are ways of doing solving, for example. The Yogācāra itself is known for that. So this one, Dhyana Prakriya, etc. And you see, I missed one thing, that the yoga for the, Siddhartha, through his spiritual development, he actually created the form, first time. That you had actually vitarka, vichara, piti, sukh, ekatra. That was a formula and that was very successful for him. So, the next one is 3 progressive dharma chakra doctrines. What happened, it's very interesting, brilliant Yogācāra position, that it takes that what the Buddha said with his own skill, it was actually the very lower level, you can say that. For laymen or scholars or whatever, that is not. There are different levels and the skill is there according to the context. So that is the Dhammacakra. Now Nagarjuna has taken a different one. The emptiness or Shunyata, etc. or different kind of Dhamma Chakra. So that is the second one. It is progressively a better one or a stronger one. Now he claims that Yogācāra that three Dhamma Chakra, that this one is the complete one for me, for Yogācāra. And then this one you find that when you, that is not my specialization, but this was Sandhi Vimochana, Sandhi So this was Sandhi Vimochan Sutra. So in this one there are 10 chapters. In this 10 chapters is very interesting. That each chapter has the questions, for example, if I read it correctly, and then all these questions, all these teaching in the progressive way, and that is the credit is given to the Buddha. So he is relating himself, very deeply related with the Buddha. Buddha is still alive, and through the Abhidharma process also. Now the next one, 8 Vijnanas. There were 6 usual ones, but the 2 were added. 2 were added, Ala Vijnana or Klishta-manas. But they were very important. Although Madhyamikas did not follow like it was unwarranted, it should have something like that. And then it had this one. Because your consistency, the mind is there. You have the memory, you have the sanskaras, you have the bijas, you have the 6 all sorts of sanskaras, and then what happens that you have to take, because it is hidden. It is a hidden one, it is continuity and pushing and creating. So it's not only that the 5 pravritti Vijnan, 5, 1, Mano Vijnan, now 6, there is Ala Vijnan and the Mano Klishta. That is the one. Okay? So this one. 8 Vijnana including this one. The 15 various theories of Shunyata, Suddha, Abhidharma, Madhyamik, Nagarjuna. The 16th one is, as I told you earlier, that the question is that what remains in the Shunyata. You are doing all those things, but what is left actually? You have taken away the entire everything taken away. What is left in that one? And this is in the title. Many scholars, especially in Nagawa. Now he is written and then he has tried. So what remains? What remains in the Shunyata? Shunyata, you have your own ways of solving or you can say establishing what is there. So this is in itself is a very problem. So, 79. Throughout the Yogācāra involves the Buddha for finally shaping its philosophy and religion and answering various questions raised by the 10 Buddhas. That all sorts of questions, different bodhisattvas are raised and that is listed. So, Sandhya Nirmochana Sutra in this one, that is actually the bodhisattvas are questioned. They are asking to please clear it because this is your teaching. Now at this level, so all these bodhisattvas are raising the question and the Buddha. So Buddha is involved throughout. So it's just like that. That Buddha suppose Buddha has like this one. That this circle in the Buddha. And that one is demolished in different ways by the Nagarjuna, etc. to solve. Of course, the roots are there, but he starts with 8 negations, Nisvabhavata and whatnot. And after that you can say, and then it comes to the Yogācāra. The challenge against Nagarjuna's radical evolutionary reinterpretations of the Buddha's doctrines, negativity of the philosophical perspective, pratikya, not his head, and or praman, chatushkoti vinirmut, silence, emptiness, dharma shunyata, swabhav shunyata, prapancha shunyata, paradox, and 2 truths. Now 2 truths he maintains. Okay? Trikaya theory, Bodhisattva ethics is all maintained. But there are different middle ways. The Buddha, Nagarjuna, and the Yogācāra Vijnana. Okay. The next one is the Yogācāra's exploration of phenomenality of world, negative as well as affirmative, existence and non-existence, being and non-being, momentariness. The next one is the internal duality of the subject object, mind's intentionality, and reinterpretation of external reality. Next, absence of 2 truths in Yogācāra. Whether 2 truths in Yogācāra is maintaining or not. This is this one. So Yogācāra consciousness theory, internal and external domains, that is the role of the ignorance, for example. So I am coming to this part, nature and status of experience, 3 dhatu in this one. Okay. Now I have what is the position? Some scholar you can say on the Nirmochana Sutra, etc. That there is I am skipping some paragraph that there is one scholar king who elaborates this process as follows. It is often stated that the first evidence of Yogācāra ideas can be found from the Nirmochana Sutra. This text is of great historical interest, not only because it is crystallization of an particularly early phase in the development of the Yogācāra in chapter 4 and 8, but also because of its description of the 3 innings of the wheel of Dharma Chakra. This is the Sutra declares. What I have tried to do, that I have structured it according to my understanding. That now here is that how to explore, just a half page is this one, Now I am explaining below these points in brief form. But what are the four positions? The one is that the Buddha, another one is that Abhidharma, the third one is Shunyavad of Nagarjuna, the fourth one is Asti and Shunyavad. Now you see the way he is trying to, his framework he is trying to create, and then he is, Yogācāras, they are establishing their position on this one. So one thing is clear. The first one is that Arya Satya of the Buddha is a design. That is the first one is the Arya Satya, the noble. Arya is the noble, you can say. Is a designation for the Buddha's noble truth based on. So if there is all these things are in the order, he has both negative and positive. So he comes and is trying to the Asanga team is establishing this one. Ultimately, this is Asanga. In the above context, the another problem I have that we get the matrata. I get the matrata matra. That is, there is a translation. The translation by different scholars and differently. So this one is all terminology. What is the purpose in this one? So in brief, in 3 or 4 lines, I have tried to catch this one. In the above context, the term Vyakti Matra, Vasubandhus, or Chit Matra Lankavatara Sutra is translated. These two terms are translated by different contemporary Buddhists differently, such as mind only, consciousness only, representation only, thought only, phenomena only, appearance only, concept only, ideation only, impression only, and perception only. So these are the translations, the scholars have. And for me, lots of problems, which one is the most suitable or acceptable to me. So this is also the how to translate. Further, it is now clear that the Yogācāra Vijnana promotes spiritual knowledge, epistemology, that is epistemology, spirituality is under epistemology, idealism, positive attitude, and nirvana without a negative the ontology of the external world, which creates craving, attachment, etc., etc. So this one is and I'm coming to there are 3 sections actually. Yogācāra Vijnana, theory of consciousness, I am skipping. Now the most important part of this one, that is the therapy of the complex nature of mind, East and West, the grand difference between the two. The kind of approach we have, the Westerners don't have that approach. They use the ideas or idealism, different kinds of idealism. Maybe that you can start with Plato, or maybe Descartes, if it is acceptable, or Berkeley, or Kant, or Husserl, and I'm leaving Hegel, etc., all these things. But so they are very different. But how you compare? Because here the latter one is the Pramana theory. Now, around, you know that around the beginning of the Christian era, the Pramana theory has started. And our approach is that, if idealism is there for a simple, and you see it in the text itself, in Shadika, that in the beginning, what is the said in the beginning, and criticism of the reality, etc., external one, for the simple reason that you can, the one thing is that in practice, really, you cannot catch the external spatio-temporal structure. But in the mind, you can say that mind is a transformation of mind, this is the purpose. And towards the end, that is missed by most of the scholars, very rarely perhaps. that is the end one is for the enlightenment. That the purpose is the same time. It's not only the focus is not the negation of the or denying the external world, for example, you see. External world. So that way you will find that towards the end, it's the entitlement in the Karika. Perhaps you might have noticed in this one. And that's why there is you can say that the purpose is this one. And then if you come to the Trimshika and the Trisvabha, etc., all these, then you find that they are in the same mood. That it's a Shunyata is there, but here is a Trisvabha there, because the Svabha Shunyata is there in Nagarjuna, here is Trisvabha. And this Trisvabha is converted into Trisvabha Shunyata, you can say. So the three is Parikalpi or Paratantra and Parinishpan. The way. So this one, if you want to end it, you want to stop. So
You may continue.
we'll continue. Because this is I know that there are many people, but my listening that, because I have come here only for this first, and there is another one I want to present, and so many listeners are there. So this one is that I am slowly, this is now I have lecture, that the theory of a complex, the nature of mind. What is the nature of mind? When my writing is concerned, number one, it goes without saying that the nature of mind is notoriously complex in terms of biological constitution, mysterious, ignorantly, phenomena created, deeply engrossed in craving, apart from greed, attachment, hatred, and intellectual confusion. All these faculties are given in you. Now you can play the play of a phenomena, and this is your creator, and you are not, you don't know that this kind of activity is me. What is mind? The mind you can dive. You know that. But here, mind, it does not know that he is ignorant. And that's why the self-enlightenment, self-correction, nobody comes. The only that your elder scholar, you can say, or predecessor, like the Buddha or any other enlightened one, helps you. That you can overcome your own. So the false and intoxicant worldview. The Buddha had one that Ditthira, I have the love for something, for the table or the car or for a person or something like that. I love. So that is very limited, no problem. Ditti. But the Ditti, this is my personal Ditti. But at the same time, this Ditti, if this is a political perspective, like communist, okay, suppose, or many other, all these politicians have their own political identity. And then he says that individual based Ditti is still very, very limited. But this is a socially organized one, or intentionally organized, and then Ditti Rag is converted into Ditti Asa. It's intoxicant. So this one. And then there are so many communists, there are so many that you build, but they create. So political identity is organizing. Zelensky or Putin, you can see. There are two persons. They are creating the problem. The whole nation, whether Ukraine or they are not involved in that one that way. But this kind of thing there, that we try to understand. And in Buddhism says that egoism to altruism. That is that. There is no comparison between the Westerners. I never so far I have not allowed to enter into this kind of comparison. That is very different one. You are there, I am here. It's a this kind of thing. But there was a time of comparison. Because the beautiful ideas are there, this is okay. But this is a very different one. Yoga, for example, transformation. So all these things are there. So world at times excessively cruel as well as compassionate. They are very cruel. Human beings. Humans are very cruel. But compassion also. And that's why the purpose in the Mula Madhyama Karika, where Chandrakirti is commenting in the very beginning after prayer. And in the prayer, there are two karika. One has 8 negation, because the pratigya is not established, any perspective is not there, because it is a conceptual, false, meaningless, very dangerous, and what not. And then Sobhav Shundeta, etc. So that, but in the very beginning it is that Karunaya Bodhartham Shastra Pranayana. Out of compassion to enlighten others, I am writing or I am composing this text. This is in the beginning. And simultaneously in the Karika, you will find that 8 negations. Because each one has the view, conceptual view of perspective. And then you see the and then you will find that Prasad method is you find that it's only criticism you get. Only criticism. Prasad method. And then emptiness is stopped. Without establishing anything, because you have to, means that you can't express yourself. So they can't say even that it is unirvachaniya. They can't use, because that itself is the prapancha, language. And that language will verify the reality, which is taken in the, as reality by others who don't know that. So it's this one. The next one is that cruel as well as compassionate, self-destroying and self-correcting, at times dull and active, unenlightened and enlightened. So Buddha is trying to do that unenlightened, this is the effort, that enlightenment. That unenlightened, he was unenlightened also. But he came to the stage of enlightenment. And that's why this is the one. But in between, from enlightenment to enlightenment, unenlightenment to enlightenment, there are lots of things happening, lots of processes are to be developed. All this is dependent on its conditions, which make the mind defiled or purified. In this way, the mindset structure keeps changing. Mindset structure. It's one structure. Changing. Thus, our entire human life is based on mind. Note that mind, manas, chit and vijnan are synonymous, but it is not, they are not the final one. Because in some contexts, all these are different contexts. There was a time when manas, that is mind, chit, that is also mind, or mind, and vijnan, that is also, you can say that is the mind, in the form of cognition, because everything within there, and then you try to name all this, but this is not there. Find it in Yogācāra, There are different contexts and they have elaborated in the commentaries like this one. So for these reasons, it is suffice to say that it is primarily most indispensable to correctly study the nature role of the nature role of the mind in our life. This gives way to Buddhist idealism across its philosophical and psychological. Now, this is the idealism. If I remember that Prasad Chatterjee's book title is Yogācāra idealism, I try to understand that this kind of idealism, that if I have karuna or compassion, this is not the end, it's an endless. And that's why it is ideal. It's not that there are 4 chairs in the wall, so there are 4 chairs. It's not that there are 4 dukhi, or you can say painful person, or there are different languages, or unsatisfied. It's not that. There is no limit. But the very birth of that one, and that one, this one, that, the whole behavior in which it is only there. You are responsible for this one. You are responsible for it. Only you can. Nobody will. And you know that on the street, here and there, every day you have in the world, lots of criminal activities are there, but you find that no God comes to the help. You have the humanity and dignity. You transform yourself. You transform yourself this one. So the mind, I quote said, if you want, quotes on mind is there, and then there is one slok is there, that very popular one in Dhamma Mano Pugamanga Dhamma Mano Seta Mano Maila Mansa etc. etc. The translation is things means Dhamma. But the dharmas are very momentary, you can say that, in a sense. Are dependent on mind, manas. In other words, mind is the source of phenomena. Because the mind is there, but it diversifies. It diversifies, it creates the diversity that is called the chetasi. There are associated, concomitant. Because if you have something in mind, suppose one has the bad idea that one wants to kill somebody. But for killing, you have lots of chetasika, lots of concomitants. Because you have the pistol, you have the this one, you have this one. Or if you want to be compassionate, then in that case also, what to compare? How to approach the others, for example. In the earlier one, I say. So, Chit and Chetasi, they are actually and the next is that this line is there. Chittena niyati logo. Chittena niyati loga, chittena prekshati. So, it's a translation is that by mind, the world is controlled. Can you believe? That you simply a mind can control the world. Your world. It can go to any extent. So you can give the example of Zelensky and Putin. Or in the Middle East, what is happening? What is happening? Whereas the reality is actually, the God is there in their religion, in their system. Even in India, here and there, but not as that one, the organized. That one, collectively, this one. And there are partners, the two sides. Now there are, I am alone, then the 10 are with me. I am not, then there are 20 going against me. What is happening? What is happening? Everything is there. But this kind of thing is that's why it says that the mind alone. Because by mind, the world is controlled. There is one person can control. Suppose our PM. But he is also, he is claiming to maintain the peace and this and that. Indians are not selectively here and there, criminals are there, but organized one that is not actually, you can say, as violent as others are in these two world wars. 7 crores life lost, or you can say injured, etc. Even they are not learning from the first world. Even the second world has started. Now this kind of is also going on. They are not. You can say hating all these things, the tradition, but these are the examples. So the mind, and he says this thing 2,500, more than 2,500 years back. Buddha said that they denounce me, but I am not at war. Others are at war with me. I am not against. It's a third youth. Means I have to struggle with the Dharma for my own benefit. So this you see, the third one is that by this one element of the mind alone are all things secure. All things are secure. The next one is, there are all more, but I don't want to repeat the even in different. How to change the conditions of mind? Chitta Shuddhi. Now you have the tarika kya? What is it? How will you overcome this one? And you have to do only through self-effort. So how to change the conditions of the mind? Chitta Shuddhi, and all these things are there. So I am not discussing this. We know that there are many practice. You can think Yogācāra practice, yoga practice, and this is from there. The formula is there. And after 1100 years, now Patanjali writes the big one, and the entire text is rooted in that one, because he is using, and then the traditions are there. So a brilliant text was so detailed, you can share the approach. Now I am coming to two traditions of Maya rooted in Pradyaparamita. So I am not in this one, but this is something that Yogācāra, so far Yogācāra system is concerned, Chitta Marga, Vigyati Marga, and Vijnana, and Buddhist subjective idealism. Buddhist subjective idealism. It goes that you are the Buddha was the historical person, a single subjective individual. But that has been transformed. And in the brief I said, that ashraya pravritti, paravritti, that whatever seat you have, whatever the foundation you have, your mind, your personality, that has to be transformed. Ashraya, changeable. If you are not getting good marks, then transform yourself. Different ways of developing your skill, etc. Something like that. Every way you can say. So this such kind of trick, very powerful in yoga. Ashraya pravritti. You transform yourself. So this way, Now another one is that Vasubandhu Tri Swabhav borrowed from Maitreya. Maitreya was not a real one, even replace Maitreya with Asam. Now there are three
because he had to somehow transform or accept the Nagarjuna's Madhyamaka philosophy's negativity, because there was a purpose in that one. Of course, this was at the end of the not this one, not this one, not this one, not this one. Even if paradox is there, lots of methodology is there, and then the empty is there. But what remains? That cannot be expressed. But what is that? This is this. So this one he is trying to, if there is one Swabha in general, here is the three Swabha. And three Swabha positively I am established. The next one is that three Swabha Shunyata. Emptiness. So this one in brief, what is it? There are three that you will easily understand, that Abhut Parikalpa. Abhut Parikalpa means there is simply Abhut Parikalpa, and then it is actually also taken some say Parikalpit Sobha. Your ideas, your dream, your imagination, but you don't know the imagination. And that way actually, this one you might do. The one thing very important to remember, that mind cannot think, mind cannot do anything unless subject and object duality is there. So object, the internal object duality, Swabhas and Parabhashas, or subjective, that I am being, that is the duality. Graha and Graha, apprehender and apprehension. Okay, this kind of thing. And you take it as a reification. That is, the reification is a very quick one. Isn't it? So these are the three. How do they? It's very important, this part, but it is in brief. I am reading that Vaswandhu on three Swabha borrowed from Asam, etc. It's okay. And number one, Abhitu Parikalpa, that is unfolded conception. Unfolded. It's an unfolded. Aparikalpi. Aparikalpi doesn't mean that it is not there. It is hidden. But when time comes, then it becomes Parikalpi. And Parikalpit only because it creates the images, for example. If you analyze unfounded conception, which is also called the pure conceptual nature, purely conceptual nature, Parikalpit Swabha. The next one is the dependent nature, Paratantra Swabha. The third one is accomplished nature, Parinispanna Swabha. Now these three, in a few lines, I am explaining. Very important, because I have other few things also. More than half I have already finished, and I should go faster. Then this one is that the three natures do not represent three different ontological commitments. The three natures do not represent three different ontological commitments. Like Parikalpi, they don't have an ontology. Okay? Paratantra, this is also ontological in what sense, for example, you can say ontological. The third one is accomplished nature, that is Parinispanna Swabha. Now this one is like this one. You see, how can you have the adjective before them? That is, three natures do not represent three different ontological commitments or any metaphysical doctrine, but as an explanation of the three psychological process. Psychological is the most important thing to understand Buddhism. And there are three, these phases. The first one, which is imaginary or pure conceptual or unfounded conception, because it is here, there. And that phrase is, it's the suitable phrase with two words is that false conception. False. There are so many conceptions, maybe. Conceptual framework, for example. Conceptual, you conceive something about, like, for example, suppose you have to cook food and you have some idea. It's a concept, but it can be translated into physical things, you can say. So, false conception. The next one, Pratantra, which is Paticca Samutpan or Pratisamutpan, the right conception. Here, right conception. If the false conception, conception can be, it's not only false always, but also it's either false, which is just not there. It has no corresponding or matching reality. So, right conception. And the last one is that where to bring the ideal, absolute one. And that's why its a name is actually, I have a little bit, or kind of guys have learned, yeah, I have learned from other, or maybe that I have tried to. And that is the ideal conception. This ideal conception, if I take this one, the title, that Yogācāra idealism, so this concept, this ideal conception. Ideal conception means that it may be that in future somewhere I have the ideal. The ideal has to be there. You cannot reach the end, you can say this one. अभी नहीं मत करो। अच्छा पानी तो है, भूल जाते हैं पानी पीना। अभी पता नहीं लाल जो है या गर्दन जो है सब दुखी हो जाता है इधर, लेकिन बोलने में सब भूल जाता है। अभी भाई बहुत आनंद जी बहुत कृपा की है। Thank you very much for your patience, very patience. But I shall come back after 6 months and submit the way I have submitted my articles on time, and I shall circulate to everybody. But this one is incomplete. But somehow I try to explain, simplify, or try to bring clarity. All these I am trying. And I am not sure that whether I am really on this path. So this one, they are limited to the empirical experiences. And here the question is there, Parinispan, what is Parinispan? It's an ideal one. It is not ontological, physical, or is still in the, but that is in your action, Bodhisattva action. Because you have to reach that one. How will you reach that one? Paratma Sampati. Paratma Sampati. Or egoism to idealism. Or idealism or Bodhisattva ethics. That is idealism, because whatever I do that is not sufficient, or that is not the end, or endless. So this idealism, this phrase is very important phrase for me, because how to understand in many writings, very confusing explanations are there. So they are not limited to the empirical experiences. All these are the empirical experience. Here itself is not something transcendental. What you say that transcendental, this is not beyond. I don't have the fund to buy this one. It's beyond my capacity. You can say that. But this is a very different kind of transcendental, absolute, and whatnot. Lots of things are there. So this one, they are limited to the empirical. This is the effort. It's an empirical experience. Now what you get? You get the experience. All sorts of experience. But in this life itself, which is mind and body combination, noun and group, and this one is that this consciousness is the product actually. Product in the sense that that I have the interaction, I have the data, okay, and my senses are impacted, okay. So I have some minutiae, you can say, just a little. And then the experience of just a moment, the experience of a moment. Then when it passes, the whole series passes to the mind has a spatio-temporal structure, then you have another experience. And then experience. Lots of experiences. So experience, you have the experience, that's all. You have. Now the thesis of experience requires elaboration, for example. It's very important. You have the mind, but then you have the experience. And who is the experiencer? It is the mind. Who is the creator? It is the mind. But mind takes it for granted. So and that's why the sutta. But it takes time before you understand. This is not so easy. I can say that this is not so easy for anybody. So this one I feel that my struggle, and you'll be surprised to know that at least I have to 15 to 17 hours I have to spend. My whole system is damaged, you see. My arms, my back, my this one, so it's a really sacrifice, you can say. But I love this kind of. But this is some kind of obsession, you can say, really, what I have in mind. They are limited to empirical. Please note down. This is here itself. Problem is here, solution should be here. This is the Buddha. Here itself. If you want to know more, then you take that parable of arrow. It will give you that how come that sufferer is asking cosmological questions, etc. Whereas the abhut parikal or parikalpit swabhav, because the swabhav is there, it's not the swabhav of the ontological or metaphysical or is, you can say, substantial one. Marx false conception, parikalpit, false conception, universal non-dependent arising, which you know, which is praditya samutpa, or pratantra swabhav. So deliberately, Yogācāra is adding. You see, that स्वभाव एक चिढ़ाने के लिए या उनको जवाब देने के लिए to answer or to challenge Nagarjuna's shunyata activity. So स्वभाव. But this kind of swabhav is actually, but this kind of swabhav is there. But this swabhav is actually not alone. Then the three swabhav shunyata is. And now that's why it creates lots of confusion to catch. So this one, so physical Marx, the pratantra swabhav Marx, the fractional nature of reality based on its own condition. It is not going with the condition. Conditions are all these are easily available because this is not the linear one. That just like the ants one after another. It's not like this one. There are multiple, like I told you that the river drops are made of all these made of molecules, for example. But they are changing. If you are boiling water in a pot, then you will find it's a boiling. So there is no fixed one. There is no fixed one. Just so you can think that the magnitude, what is magnitude, how to explain this one, take it for granted. So it is called that condition, and those conditions, different conditions every moment, that is the conditioning. It creates others. So conditions and conditioning, and it's fractional. So this is the ultimate reality imbued with nature's dynamic principle. This principle for the Buddha is taken as the middle path. Which one is the middle path? Okay, the one is the false, another one is the ideal. Which one is the real, the middle path? The empirical what I have to within myself. Empirical. Empirical is always the supreme. Whether it's a nirvana, you know that sansara and nirvana and duality and some kind of identity or two truths. So whether I have to take, the two truths study is there in Nagarjuna, whether it is here or not. Most of the thinkers think that it's not there. Two truths. Or middle path, some kind of. So being a Madhyamik, Mahayana. So this one, the metaphysics. So out of this, the idealist conception, the Parinispanda Swabhav, which is based on Parikalpi, because it is Parikalpi, has ontological status, like Parikalpi Swabhav and Pratantra Swabhav. It is based on, because it comes the third one, because you have the false one, you have here, you have the Paratantra, that is the thing. So this one is coming, and then here is the ideal one. And this ideal is not the ontological like the chair, or it's not the metaphysical something beyond the world, you can say. It's not there. Out of these three, only Paratantra Swabhav has ontological status. So Parinispanda is out. Even because so far at this stage, so far this today, right now is concerned that it is in the idea, hollowness, or some possibility. So that's why you see in this one that Yogācāra is trying to is concerned or trying to explore more internal ideas, like you know that Alavigyan, storehouse, because in the storehouse only, that mind you can say, your conviction is that that is actually the source actually. And it tries to, its value is very important, because that is inside. You have the lots of money in the bank, for example, in the locker. But look, people know that no, you don't have. It's a here actually. It's a here, the bank of idea. So here you see, you have the memory. Suppose I come here after a year or so, you say after 1 year or so, and then I realize it's a memory is there. And memory is there means that is the past is found as if alive. So the past is related. The present was there. And in that process, past, present and future continues. You are in that process. If you are in the express or in the train, etc., then you find that you are moving there. It's something like double, that I am going from past to present to future. But another sense is that it is going like this one, but there is another two direction. That it is past is actually, it starts from here and it is going into past. Okay? But here sometimes it goes like this one to bring the future. So that one is complicated. It's my area of time factor is there, but it takes lots of time. There is one article, he has the article and he is publishing that article. So it takes lots of time in understanding. But if you suffer to explore, then suffering is actually, it will pay a very high reward to you. I understand this one. Out of these three, only Pratantra is ontological status, but dependent on multiple causal conditions. But it is not ontological status has, but it is not the independent of mind. It is the conditions are there, that is also ontological status, you can say that. So there are lots of things in between. However, all these three are characterized as non-eternal and empty of metaphysical absolutism, shunyata, nisvabhavata, essencelessness, contrary to the empirically psychological experience at individual level. These all things are happening at psychological level further. It's not further, it's very different. You take it, you verify this kind of experience. For example, there is a snake. That is the word, a sentence. But at the same time, you can say that you verify that here is the sentence. In some kind of joke, the brothers and sisters and two sisters, they bring from the market the plastic one or rubber one, the cockroach or anything. Suddenly, if one sister throws it to her another sister, then suddenly she is feared actually, cries sometimes, runs away. All these things happen, for example. But you take that actually it is a false one, but this one is actually, this one is so false. So it is starting like this one on this. I am not in a position to elaborate in detail right now, and there is no time like this one. Then lots of other things. Emptiness, definition, etymology, doctrine, all these things are there, for example. I have actually Yogācāra theory of emptiness come fullness. Emptiness is not alone. Not alone, at least in this case, that emptiness, but it is fullness. If you take Nagarjuna and he stops explaining the emptiness, that what remains in Shunyata or emptiness. But at least this is that what is emptiness? It is actually fullness. And that in Sanskrit is called Sugrihit Shunyata. That is achieved. So Shunyata, suppose for example, this is a different kind of thing. This, there are suppose 50 people present, or there are chairs, suppose 100. So this chair is not empty in this context. But this is empty because others have left, or animals are not there. So the empty in what sense? In what sense? So in one sense it is being, in another context in the sense it is not being. So this duality in this way, that emptiness is not empty just in literal sense. And that's why that you have, if you say that mera dimag khali ho gaya, it's empty in my mind, this means that you are peace. You are peace, you have the peace. The peace is there at least. You have overcome the disturbance. But the peace is not in the hollowness. It's not hollowness. It's something you have. So this way, all these things are there. And the next one is that Buddhist idealism. And Buddhist idealism, there are 3 lines which I know. That if you talk of idealism and negation of the external object. Now there are 3, you see, and I shall stop. Not that in lecture, but this one is that number 1 point is that what we take to the external objects are merely appearances in conscious awareness. Okay, appearances. That means that what we take to be external objects, are merely appearances in conscious awareness. That is one theory. In the option, you can say there are three philosophical theses. Number two, appearances in conscious awareness are mentally caused. The third one is that the mental cause of appearance is more fundamentally real than appearance. There are three theories are there. But I don't want to explain. If you can, right now, there are lots of other things. Quickly, I will finish. That it is Sahoplamini, which is the chapter of Professor Chatterjee. Sahopalambaniyam inference. You see, Sa means together, Upalama means in my experience, you can say. Sahopalamban. What is this? How to read this one? I am giving you the translation. This one. And this one was Digna's most famous successor. I mean, Digna's, he took the idea, not exactly the Sanskrit phrase. So this message, together they are responsible for, these, Digna and Dharmakirti. Dharmakirti is the follower of Digna. For the Buddhist tradition of epistemology and logic, it is the first time, strictly speaking, the epistemology and logic starts with formally with a Digna, and then followers develop further. You can say Pramana. This school provoked some of the most systematic and important philosophical debates in ancient India on the nature of metaphysics, mind, language, and logic, and it decisively shaped the course of Mahayana Buddhist thought. The third chapter of the third chapter of Dharmakirti's Pramana Bharti is traditionally read as both articulating and defending a form of idealism. But he is establishing. But the same person is talking of Arthakriya pragmatism. This means that there is a specific concern, and that is the soteriological, you can say, ethical, you can say, all these. So this one is there, that is the other things are the mind illuminates itself or reflects on itself, etc. The Digna, and that is he is talking of self-illumination or self-illuminates itself, mind illuminates itself, reflects on itself, self-illuminate, and are self-aware, swasamvedan or swasamveti. So all these things are, it's just like the lamp. There's so many metaphors are used by the Yogācāra Vijnanvadis. Many. And these metaphors are used by all thinkers are there. It's not that it's not there. Then we will take the most well-known idealist argument. But you have to. So Chatterjee told whether he has I am not taking all these things, but he has taken this one. In the chapter where he confronts the realist like Sarvastivadi, Vagajik, Sarvastivadi, Dosokrantik, etc. All these were in some or the other way, the realists, or maybe Nyaya, Vishesik, or other kinds of. Dharmakirti's most well-known idealist argument turns on this notion of self-awareness. It has come to be known as Sahopalambaniyam inference because it argues from the necessity notion of awareness. It has come to let me correct this one. Then critics' most well-known idealist argument turns on this notion of self-awareness. It has come to be known as Swabhav inference because it argues from the necessity that is the niyam. Swabhav is a certain, it's a very, it has certainty, necessity of things only ever being experienced, that is together with experience, that is upalambha, and the inference is neatly summarized as follows. There are two translations, you see, based on the Pramana Vinishya in Karika, first chapter 52, and the very first line of the Karika. Blue and consciousness of blue are not different because they must always be apprehended together. Okay, it's found. It's a longer explanation in 3 lines. Because that is something blue is not apprehended without the additional qualification of consciousness. And because blue is apprehended when this qualification of consciousness is apprehended, consciousness itself has the appearance of blue. There is no external object by itself. It's very complicated, but you have to work on this one. So and now there are quite a few details are there. So I am this is B. The last one, this page. The majority of Indian attitude and style in respect of an original text, like was Bandhu's Vinshatiga, is such that they take others' oral claim. What is our habit? Our habit is that I am hearing, I am thinking, I am taking on my own. It's a idea, something like this one. It happens like this one. On this one, the majority of Indian attitude and the style in respect of an original text like Vasubandhu's Vinshatika is such that they take others' oral claims as a truth. अब तीसरे का दिया तो oral claim. Oral claim में the truth है. For example, you can if the Buddha says something, you are forced to accept this one. As if everybody is the Buddha. Everybody is the Buddha. Misunderstanding, misrepresentation, repetition, and blind or deliberate copy, and so unjust rejection of intelligent opponents. Because all these terms are going against as if the opponent is playing this kind of dirty game, which gives a further dialogue. Whereas, there is no issue for dialogue here. So just clear. You can say, let us close this. So this kind of behavior. Whereas every thinker has his own delimited conceptual framework. Because every thinker has conceptual framework within the boundary. Whether it is the opponent or whether it is the proponent. Let us take 2 examples. One, a later Madhyamik rejects the Yogācāra doctrine of Chittamat and Vijnanmat and finds its unnecessary addition of Anavidya and Klishta Manovidya to the early 6 Vijnanas, 5 Prakriti Vidya and 1 Manovidya, total 8 Vijnana, without knowing the importance of the 2 additional Vijnana by Asanga and Vasubandhu. And this is the charge of the Madhyamika. There was no need of this one, all these. But this kind of all these new new ideas and new and this fixation, you can say that all these things, and then since they do not basically they don't have Nagarjuna or his followers later followers who do not accept this one, and they simply just keep it aside. There was no need for this one. But these are the strategies. These are the strategies for the very successful strategy, argument, the idea or the addition for the yoga, for the successful establishment of the Yogācāra began. Right? So this one. Last one, I think last one, it should be last one. Okay? What to do? We are helpless. Helpless in the sense that there are so many choices. If you go to the hotel, suppose 5-star hotel, and if you are inviting your friends, let us go because I have been eating food in this hotel and delicious. Nowhere will find a better one than the food taste here. Anyway, this kind of, and everybody is sitting, everybody is very dim light, or very pleasant, lower noise. So the Bairak comes neat and clean, and you find that they are so neat and clean, there's all sorts of, and then they brings the menu, and they don't bring one menu, one list. They have 6 persons are there, 10 persons are there. They will come, bring 10 copies and distribute, and he will disappear. He will come after 20 minutes. Still they find that all of them are engaged in this one because 10 kinds of chapati, 20 kinds of vegetable, 20 this one, like 500 dish. We get lost in that one. And then it takes, suppose one everybody is classing, I am taking this one, and then okay, whatever you like, you take. Okay, your choice is there. And then you enjoy. But the person who is guiding you or offering this kind of opportunity, at one point he wants to know, we have been eating this one, but how do they cook this kind of delicious food? How will you know? Because there is no one. It's the perception that you are tasting is very much here. But suppose you are very curious, which is a philosophical way of knowing. If you enter into, because you are very friendly in this one, you enter into the kitchen. Now when you enter into the kitchen, there is the real context that the vegetables are not clean. Cockroaches are here and there, they are roaming. Or paste of the floor, etc., all sorts of things, not in the hygienic way. Okay? Here you taste, and here you see the situation, they are unhygienic. This means that what you call this, all these things. Now there are two sides, delicious food and delicious food. Who is responsible for this one? Because the cockroach is also responsible for that. Washing, without washing the food, that is the responsibility. Because these elements are there, on the basis of these elements, I am taking it. This means that all conditions are there and they are created, making you happy or pleased to have the delicious food. What will be the reaction to you? अगर कोई कहेगा कि please 5 cockroaches and more, so that it is more delicious, you can take it. Can you say like this? It's very disturbing, this kind of thing. So this means that once it is disclosed and all these things are there, and then you find that for 20 years, so your reaction will be really very, I mean, you can say shocking like this one. If for 20 years I have been eating, but I never realized. So, suppose some drama is there, a criminal is coming in and he is playing the role of, suppose, this and that. And then he is respected, maybe. But behind the curtain, when he goes and changes the dress, then you recognize that, okay, this is the gentleman and he is playing the role of Sri Ram without the virtue. Your mind catches this virtue. Let me know what to do. I'm tired. I'm tired. You will say that I am tired. Let me use that all these phenomena here. Let us have the help of phenomenology. Husserl's phenomenology. Because in the phenomenology, you already know that Noiva and noetic is some cheeses, there are elements, you know that. And then that one, the Husserlian and Buddhist. There is that, okay, I am not going to. Let me discuss only the phenomenon. I am not talking of all these spiritual, etc., all sorts of things, lots of. Let us keep aside. So, this kind of phenomenology, it becomes a method, say, for the first person singular individual is there, and then you use this method. And that is actually possible. The Husserl's phenomenology is acceptable because what I cannot understand in the text, or in the text, all these things are not so clearly developed or interpreted on this way. But here it helps me. So the Husserl and Buddhism phenomenology. So I am not going to explain here. And I leave it here. And that's why. So I can only say that thank you very much indeed. कोई जरूरी नहीं कि इतने आदमी फिजिकली प्रेजेंट नहीं है, बुद्ध तो 5 से तो चले थे ना, बहुत से ऑनलाइन है, लेकिन आई एम रियली ग्रेटफुल टू Prasad Anand that he was very he allowed me, but I wanted to ask him to give the response to this order, some response, and then I think that I'm not going to react further. If you have a question, etc., you can ask.